Hello again, and welcome to another edition of On the Marquee. Our sponsors for this edition are Joe and Terry Malis and the Photo Place in Austintown. Our guest today has been seen on many area stages, not just the Playhouse, but on many area stages. But more recently, he has kind of resurrected the Oakland Center for the Arts that closed several years ago. And of course, we're talking about Mr. Brendan Byers.
Thanks, John.
Brendan, how you doing?
Nice to see you.
Good to see you. Now, you've got a long history in theater. Kind of give us a quick update on your history, how you got started, when.
Well, geez, my first show was right here on the Playhouse stage. I never did children's theater. Mm-hmm. I went right for the big shows, and luckily enough, they cast me. I'm trying to remember. I think Annie Get Your Gun was the first one that I was ever in.
Okay.
That goes back quite a ways. Brigadoon. There was Hello Dolly Cabaret. There was all those musicals right through high school. Mm-hmm. This is where I was.
Now, what was your first one here?
Annie Get Your Gun.
Annie Get Your Gun. Okay.
That was 1978.
Okay. Do you remember who was in that? Because I know they've done it several times.
Ellen Kawana.
Okay, I remember her.
Judy McCall. Jay Gettler. Mm-hmm. Jay Gettler was the lead in that. And then there was just everybody you could think of. That was a collaboration with the Ballet Western Reserve, if I remember correctly. And Filatico, I think was his name, from the ballet. He directed it. Okay. He directed that one. And it was a huge cast. Huge. Mm-hmm. I mean, we had people changing downstairs in the wings, not even up in the dressing rooms. There were so many people in that show. Yeah. In those days, those shows were huge. You
could cast shows like that in those days because you had participation that was unbelievable back then.
Well, sure, this was the place, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This was the place.
Now, what are some of your favorite memories here from shows that you've done?
I had a lot of fun in the next show that I did. I loved Annie Get Your Gun, but I had a lot of fun in the next show I did was Brigadoon. And you should remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Because you were the stage manager.
I was. That was a great
That's how long ago our relationship started. It was really fun because there was a whole different group of kids that got involved in that time. Bernie Appleese, Carla Torba, there's Kathy Prosser.
Oh yeah.
That was her first show here. Brigadoon was her first show here. So there was just a group of us, Amy Malkoff, that became really fast friends during that show. And from that show, then we were in subsequent shows. It was a great time for us, I think, because there were so many kids our own age, and we just were all over town then, because we had friends from every side of town. It was great. It's one of the best memories that I have.
Well,
it's the lasting friendships.
Yeah, and I think theater kind of fosters that anyway, because you're kind of a family when you're working together.
Sure.
But Brigadoon was another one of those shows where you just had people coming out of the woodwork to be cast and to work crew.
My goodness.
And speaking of people like Huey Fagan, you have worked, over the years with many people here. Some of the biggies that have gone through here. Was there anybody in particular, or maybe a couple of people, maybe what kind of mentors that you kind of learned from particularly?
It's funny. I have to say Sandy Van Such. To this day, is still a mentor to me. I remember we did Hello Dolly, and that was her first main stage show here was Hello Dolly. And she came to me after that, and she said, I really enjoyed working with you. There's a show I'm going to do downstairs, and I'd like you to be in it. It's called A Shadow Box by Michael Christopher. And she said, it's an interesting show, but it has some language in it. so I want your parents to read it. I was like, okay. So I said, Mom, Sandy Van Such wants me to be in this show, and it's got some language in it, though. So my mom and dad both read it. It was very interesting, and one night he called me back into his office, and he said, okay. Now some of the language that's in this show, you've never heard come out of my mouth. And he goes, there's a reason for that. It's just, I know it's part of everyday vernacular, it's just not some stuff that I would say. That being said, this is a beautiful piece of work. And your mother and I think it would be a great opportunity for you.
Oh, that's great.
And so you have our blessing to do the show. So that was, and I was one of the first people to drop the F-bomb in this building, I have to say that. It was a very well-received show. Mm-hmm. And that started a bond that led to Cabaret, that led to a bunch of other shows, and eventually the Oakland. Mm-hmm. And for the first time I was down there working for Sandy and learning from Sandy. There are a lot of things that I learned from her.
Well, just the fact that she had your parents read that show says something about her. Because there are very many directors that would just say, here, read it, if you want to do it, that's fine, and wouldn't consider that element.
Right.
And I think that says an awful lot about Sandy.
Well, and I think that's probably why they went ahead and said yes. Mm-hmm. Even though some of that stuff would just, you wouldn't hear it out of them, mm-hmm. But they were open enough because she gave me that opportunity and gave them that opportunity to read it and be out in front of it. Mm-hmm. So I think, I respect her for that as well.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. Now, when you go back years ago in the Playhouse, and even today, I mean, you've seen many managing directors come and go. I mean, there's been a lot of them. Bentley, of course, was here probably longer than anybody. But I kind of like to throw this question out to people that have been around this place for a while. If you had ever been managing director of the Playhouse, put yourself in that position for a minute, what would be something or some of the things that you would have maybe implemented to help move this place forward?
Well, I think that some of the things that they are doing today is one of the things that I think I would have done then. I think Sandy Van Such had the right idea of bringing newer shows in that may be a little controversial. I know that for a long time the Playhouse stayed away from the controversy. They didn't want to do shows with language. They just didn't think they had to do stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And when you see the changing culture and you see the way things are happening in the world, I think it's theater's job to reflect that.
Right.
And so I think there was a period of time where they didn't necessarily reflect the changing times. But I think that now more so, especially with the Adler series that they're doing here, that to me was, I think they probably could have moved along a little further and maybe kept some of that younger audience, or grew a younger audience earlier. Had they done that, maybe? Maybe not.
Since Jimmy has come in, I think, because he's doing things that are more current.
Absolutely.
Than what's been done maybe in previous seasons.
And you see, all you have to do is look at the audiences. Mm-hmm. That to me is an encouraging sign when you come here and you see so many people sitting in those seats.
And that kind of leads to my next question too. What is it about the Youngstown Playhouse, and it's been around for almost 100 years, that makes it such an important part of this community?
For so many people, it's home. Mm-hmm. For me, it was home. It was home as a teenager. This is where, if I wasn't at my house, I was here. Mm-hmm. People in the community, they may not have been on stage here, but all those school shows, when the cat used to go around, and all those kids that passed through these doors, it all made an impact on all those kids that went through these doors.
Oh yeah, yeah.
that's the biggest single thing. I think it's touched so many lives in this town, so many generations of lives.
I've seen.
Fathers and kids and
Well, yeah. People do
the people that I know.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. I know I've run across pictures in the archive room back in, I don't know what year it was, because none of the pictures are dated, but school buses lined up from the front door all the way down to Glenwood Avenue for the school shows that they were doing.
I remember being on those buses coming here.
Yeah.
And coming on Saturdays.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they would do a Saturday show as well.
Yeah.
My parents were always wanted us kids to be involved in the arts, so they brought all of us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my mom's dad was a vaudevillian.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I came by that kind of naturally. My dad played 7 instruments, never took a lesson.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so on both sides, I got a little bit of it in me. So,
Well, as an actor, you've done a lot of roles. Lately, you've been more backstage, behind the scenes, because of your involvement now in the Oakland. But what kind of character are you drawn to play on stage? What do you look for?
depth, a character that has a story to tell. I'm drawn to humor because, you know, I lost a brother when he was 18. There's been some tragedy in my life, and some of that you use that angst to build on, and it's always worked well for me to be the physical comedy guy, and I love it. And so it gets me roles, you know, that kind of thing. But that's what I look for, is depth, and what can I bring that's unique to this character.
Okay.
That's what I look for.
I've mentioned the Oakland a couple of times since we started, and you have kind of resurrected it out of you know, when it went away a few years ago.
Yeah.
What prompted
Pick up
you?
in the road.
Yeah, pick up in the road. What prompted you to do that? What made you want to do that?
Well, the Oakland meant an awful lot to me. Not only because it was the first theater that gave me a job, and it allowed me to grow. If you think about, you know, I did the tour for years. I learned. How better to learn to be in front of a child audience? Let me tell you, you learn fast, because they don't miss a darn
That's
thing.
right. Yeah.
And I learned from that. And Sandy Van Such giving me opportunities to direct. The first time I directed was a drama with 17 people in it. That was rough.
What was it? Put you on
6
the
Degrees
spot.
of Separation.
Okay. I remember that. I
Degrees of
remember when you guys
Separation.
did that, yeah.
And I was lucky because there was just great people. But yeah, sure, I'll be in it. Yeah, that'll be fun. First one, wow, you picked a big one. It was fun though, and Sandy gave me a lot of opportunities aside from what I did every day there, which was cleaning the bathrooms and taking care of the files and getting stuff over to the accountant and being the person that was there during the daytime and taking money at the door. I got to direct in shows. I got to be in shows. It meant everything to me. Then I went off to Pittsburgh, but when I came back, because my parents, sick parents, I sat down with Harold Davis, and both of us were just sick about it. With the growth of what the Playhouse was doing, was there a place for the Oakland? Yeah, maybe there was. One of the things the Oakland always did and did well that they had gotten out of in the recent years was youth programming. And I thought that is really an easy way to well, not necessarily easy. It's been very tiring, but
A good way.
it was a good way to put it on firm financial footing. And I think that we have done that. I think that our potential is great. We are now We've moved into senior programming.
I saw that, yeah.
And Vic Garcia, another Playhouse luminary, has jumped on board, and he's going to help with that. And we're doing some interactive theater with kids. Pat Fagan has come aboard and said, I'd like to do this. And I was like, right on, come on, let's do it. And the next thing we're looking at is a film school, starting a film school.
Really? That's great.
That to me
exciting.
is the most exciting.
Yeah,
That's kind of a new thing. And what I'm trying to do is just stay out of everybody else's way and do what I love to do. I love to teach kids. And I have 7 and 8-year-olds that know things that I didn't know until I was in high school or college. They can tell you, I mean, we really, it's educationally based, and I give them tests. I really want kids to be able to grow. And so that part has been great. I mean, it's just been great.
Hold your thought for just a second, because we're going to come back to that. I need to take a quick break. I want to thank our sponsors again for this edition, Joe and Terry Malis and the Photo Place over in Austin Town. Getting back to kids. You have worked with enough kids in theater, both here and at the Oakland, that you see how it impacts their lives. And you can take a kid, a very shy, introverted kid, and put him in a theater environment, and you see amazing results. How does that happen? How do you see kids get impacted? Why do they get so impacted by theater?
You know, it's interesting. Since I started this program, I've run into a lot of homeschooled kids. And what a lot of these homeschool kids don't get is the interaction with other kids. I can think of 2 brothers that are in my program now and have been involved for 2.5 years. And neither of them would talk to you. They wanted to do it, but they didn't have a lot to say. To get them to project their voices was rough because they didn't feel comfortable. They weren't used to being around other kids. Let me tell you, one of the kids now is the vice president of our youth board. His brother just had the best audition that I have seen out of almost any of our kids. He has come such a long way. That to me, to see these kids grow, and I have seen, you know, in 2.5 years, I can't believe the growth I've seen in some of these kids. And it's how they treat each other because of all the lessons that you learn in team building. You know, it takes a village to put on a show.
Right, exactly.
And I get them very involved in the whole process, from the set through the lights, every bit of it. So they get a creative outlet. A lot of kids don't get that otherwise.
That's true, yeah.
You know, when you look at the school system and the cutbacks in the arts, what's the first thing they cut?
Yeah.
The arts. This to me is important. The arts are important. It sustains people's lives.
Exactly. Well, see, this is part of the great thing about community theater, too. Not just for kids, but for adults. You can get involved in every phase of it. Professionally, you can't. Right. You're locked into whatever it is you do.
What's your skill set, right?
But here, you can learn everything about community theater, and that's one of the great things about community theater, I think. Now, there are those people, and this has been voiced many times by a lot of people, and I'm sure you've heard it 100 times, that say, and this is not just theater people, but audience people alike, that there's just too many community theaters in a town this size. How would you address that?
Well, everybody seems to have people walking through the door. So, there was a time when the Playhouse was the only one. And then the Oakland came into being, and a lot of people didn't think that was going to last. Well, it did, till it didn't, but it did again. You look at Rob Jokey going down and doing his original stuff. That's totally different and new, and so
totally apart from what everybody else is doing.
Right. I think that every space has their own niche and their own audience. And, you know, we work mostly with kids now. But kids and now old folks. So
Yeah.
it's a nice little. We found our little niche, I think, and this will leave a lasting legacy for the Oakland. But I think, is there too much? No, I don't think so, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to keep you and I both know that if you don't have the revenue coming in, you can't keep your doors open.
Exactly.
And if they're able to keep their doors open, then they must be doing something right.
Mm-hmm. I want to touch on the program you have for older folks at your theater. When I first heard about that, I thought, this is a great idea. This really is a great idea. Explain that a little bit more. What's it like? What do they do?
Well, I put out, one of the things that I learned during learning about writing grants was that what do you do to question your audience, to see what they want to see, or to get the feel of what's missing in town. And one of the things that came through was some things from some seniors. Do something for seniors, something during the day. And the Oakland had a program that was called the Follies, the Senior Follies. And Sandy kind of grew that program a little bit, but then that kind of went. Once we moved downtown to the new building, it kind of went away. There wasn't a lot of new people coming into the program. So I was talking to Vic Garcia, and I said to him, well, he said, I really want to be involved. And I said, do you want to work with kids? He went, well, I could. So it wasn't a definitive yes. So I asked him, I said, well, where do you see yourself? He said, what do you think about doing stuff with seniors? And I said, I love the idea of doing stuff with seniors. I always have. And I said, and in our space that we rent, nobody does anything in the daytime. Mm-hmm. So that could be a perfect little thing for us. And, there's a lot of retirees in this town. Oh, yeah. And so I said, Vic, write down what you want to do. Submit a proposal to me. So he sat down, and I went over to his apartment, and we sat down, and we talked about it, talked about what he wanted to do. So it's going to start it started this week actually with classes. Mm-hmm. He's going to instruct these classes. And then they'll do some kind of little presentation there. But this will lead to a little company of actors that will then, we're going to do a $20 lunch and a show during the daytime for seniors. So it's a soup and a sandwich or whatever, and a little dessert, coffee. But it could be an original work. It could be, if you know any writers, an original work. It could be a little musical, a little drama. We're looking at radio theater. We're looking at readers theater. He had me get the script to love letters. That's something that interests him, and it's something fun that could be done with multiple characters. So it's something that we can do there, but we can also do it at Park Vista, and that's right now where we've started doing classes. We wanted 9. First we wanted 6, and then we decided we wanted 9, and he ended up with 19.
Oh, wow.
So he has 2 classes. Yeah, that's exciting to me. I just think it's exciting to me. There's people that have worked their whole lives, and they've come to maybe see a show here at the Playhouse or at the Oakland, and they sat back and they went, I wish I would have done that. Well, this gives those wishers a chance to maybe do something. And if they decide they don't want to be on stage, they don't have to be on stage. But if through this learning process they get bit by the bug, well, there you go. Then it's something for them to do during the day, and it's a way to feed that artistic soul in them as well.
I think that's great. That's a great idea.
Thank you. I'm real pleased. I think it's a great idea too.
Now, with all these theaters, and going back to that for a minute, obviously we're all after the same dollar, even though everybody has their own little niche of what they do. What do you think the prospect would be, if you think it would be beneficial at all, of the Oakland and the Playhouse teaming up to do something in the future?
Well, I did mention that to Jimmy, and actually I think Joe Malis brought it up as well. He said to me, I'm open to collaborate with anybody. And I have been kind of reaching out to various places and people to say, hey, we're here, this is what we're doing. We have a beautiful space that we're using, and so it's a big space, too big, but it's a beautiful space. And I've reached out to people and said, let's talk about doing something together. So I've had some dance schools come towards me, probably because of all the kids that are involved and the prospects that they see. I want to say there's conversations that have been started, and I hope to see that they go somewhere in the future.
I hope so. Now, you've touched on some of the things that you're planning in the future. Now, this won't be seen, actually, for a while yet, till we get closer to the hundreds. But what other than what you've mentioned, do you have any other plans in mind down the road for the Oakland?
Well, with kid stuff, you can grow other ways. One of the things that the Oakland got away from was the tour. By the time this is seen, the tour will be up and running again, so we will go back to every year hiring 3 professional actors and taking shows into schools and libraries. It'll never be what it was. Our heyday was the first year that I did it. On Fairgreen Avenue, we were still in 5th and Fairgreen, we were still in that building. And that was the first time that I had done the tour, and we had 365 bookings, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, Pat Fagan was
That's
a
amazing tour.
beast on that phone, and she taught me how to do it. She's like, you don't give up. You call, and you keep tell them what you have and how they can save money. So one of the biggest obstacles that schools have right now is the busing. So I think that this is, again, a little bit of an untapped market, and the Oakland had the whole market till it went away, till it stopped doing those kids shows, and they changed their approach towards how they got a hold of people, and they did a lot of things with faxing and stuff like that. And to me, it's the personal touch, getting on the phone, making the connection, and so they know you. Well, what are you doing this year? Then they'll start calling you back. So I think that's one place that we're going to grow. I really hope that this film school takes off.
That sounds exciting. That does.
It does to me too. And ultimately, I mean, they're going to make individual films. There's going to be some individual films made. I mean, that's what's going to happen. Ultimately, that's what's going to happen. Each class will make a film, and then he's already talked to Movies 8, and they're going to be willing to show the film there at Movies 8 in Boardman. So for kids in particular, that would be exciting. But I think for adults that want to get involved in a program like this, that'll be exciting as well. And then maybe we can see more filmmaking being done locally. It certainly has the affordability factor. I lived in Pittsburgh, and the movie scene has just blown up there.
It has.
And I could have been on a set of a movie almost any day of the week. So I think that Youngstown can be that place. So I think it's important to maybe be a groundbreaker a little bit and try and cash in on that and do something a little different and give another option and for people to grow. So we'll see. There was talk that YSU may be considering looking at a film program. So that could be, we could be, if we do it right, a feeder for the film school. So that's exciting for us.
That is. Well, Brendan, I think our time's about up.
Well, thank you.
But I thank you for coming in, and it's been a pleasure talking to you. We don't get to see each other very much, but
I know.
It was good to see you today.
Nice to see you as well.
We want to thank our sponsors again, Joe and Terry Malis and the Photo Place, and we will see you next time on The Marquee.